Hey everyone, me again. So this is not a video I expected to make or wanted to make, but it's got some pretty important information, potentially at least. If you're looking at buying one of these Tara TM-9 first gen pistols, probably second gen too for that matter, or if you're like me and you already have one, basically to get straight to the point, if you don't have the attention span to listen to the explanation, if you get nothing else out of this video, basically treat these like you would a used Brico Jennings Jimenez type pistol. That's it. If you get nothing else out of here, that should be the takeaway. To provide an explanation, as someone who's been collecting military surplus for a number of years now, one of the lessons you pick up pretty quickly is you never want to impulse buy anything. There are probably some scenarios where you can't help it, can't avoid it, but generally speaking, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get stung. So if you can avoid it, do. And this was not an impulse buy, by the way. It is unloaded for all the safety police out there. But as I was saying, this was not an impulse buy. I looked up forum posts. I watched really at least half a dozen reviews, and not from these shill channels that have been on YouTube for 12 years, and they've never given a negative review to anything ever. Like real people that bought these things, tried them out. And the consensus seems to be is that these are okay-ish pistols. They don't do anything exceptionally well. They have kind of a awful long trigger pull, but because some of the springs interchange with Glock, that can be mitigated somewhat. But, for $200, you don't exactly expect something that's going to, run circles around, say, an H&K, for instance. So that was fine. I was at risk I was willing to take. So I picked one up. I did do the trigger improvement. It does help. But I fired maybe 300 rounds through it or so, never had any particular problems. And then I get to digging around for information. And this is where I find a posting that says that a batch of pre-production trial pistols, experimental pistols, something like that, got into this batch of first-gen pistols. And so there's a spreadsheet on the actual Tara website, and if your serial number happens to be on there, yours is affected by this. You shouldn't be shooting it with live ammunition. If you do, the consequences are essentially on you. Of course, I will post the link to the spreadsheet down below if you're concerned. Mine, of course, lo and behold, was on the list. But I also became immediately skeptical of this narrative because not only was my pistol on the list, but there was 7,000 different serial numbers on there. And nobody makes 7,000 pre-production experimental pistols. That's enough to equip the entire Montenegrin military, and then some, by the way. That's where these are made, in Montenegro, by the way. So clearly something else is afoot. To me, it smelled more like there's probably some kind of reliability problem, maybe parts breakages or something along those lines, and rather than having to do a recall or anything like that, they decided to wash their hands of the whole thing and say, well, if you fired live ammo through this, it's really your own fault. And as I'm looking around for more information on the details on this, I did find this letter, which has been floating around the internet. I can't 100% confirm it's authentic, but allegedly it's from Tara. And it basically, and I'll post it up, a copy of it so you can pause and read it for yourself. But in short, it seems to say that no, these really were built to handle live ammunition, but the kind of initial batch of them had some reliability problems, and some customer came in and said, well, we want them anyways, and we're going to fire rubber bullets and blanks through them. So we went ahead and completed this customer's order like they requested. But we didn't do the proper overpressure testing and reliability testing that we would have otherwise, because the customer was going to use them for, again, rubber bullets and blanks. And then that customer went on to unscrupulously sell them as, ordinary 9x19 pistols, as they're marked, by the way. I don't fully buy this story, of course, but at least it paints a clearer picture as to what's wrong with these guns. As far as, yes, there's probably some kind of quality problem, as far as, maybe some parts breakages, maybe some reliability issues. This whole narrative about the other customer, clearly it's them trying to say, it's not on us, it's on them as far as selling these guns. What I think really happened, if I had to speculate, was that these pistols were adopted by some organization, whether maybe it's the Montenegrin military or police or both, or somebody like that. Maybe some palms got greased to get that to happen. And then whoever this customer is found out, oh, these pistols kind of suck. They're having parts breakages, or maybe they're not that reliable. And rather than doing a recall, their kind of win-win that they came up with was, let's just dump them on the Americans. Customer gets their money back. Tara doesn't have to do any of these, any expensive warranty work. No one is the wiser. I suspect that that's probably what happened, or something like that. So that, of course, takes me back to the conclusion. This is why you sort of do treat these as Bryco, Jennings, Jimenez type pistols, in that, yes, they really technically were designed and built to fire live ammunition, but you shouldn't depend on them to do that over a long period of time without parts breakages reliably. That's really kind of where I'm at with it. As far as, what am I going to do? Am I going to shoot this pistol anymore? Probably not. Fortunately, I don't have to. I am considering reaching out to Atlantic Firearms. That's who I bought mine from. Maybe they might accept it as a return in light of the fact that the manufacturer now claims you're not supposed to be shooting these with live ammunition. But the collector in me says, well, it's kind of an interesting novelty, and maybe it's like a future forgotten weapon, if you will. But, sort of especially with this potentially rather shady backstory, maybe worth keeping. Certainly, if you don't have that collector's inclination, I would not suggest using this for any kind of practical purposes as far as like self-defense, home defense, or anything like that. Again, the quality I haven't had any problems with mine, but they're just not built with that level of quality in mind, apparently. And I also probably wouldn't suggest buying any of the second-gen pistols just because, if a manufacturer rolls this way, I don't know that I'd count on them to cover any future products either. If it's kind of tempting from a budgetary standpoint, because these are rather cheap, they kind of sell for kind of $200 to $240. I think some retailers do still have them. Right now, we're kind of living in this golden era of like cheap polymer frame 9mm pistols. Just for the sake of example, this guy here I bought for $230. It is head and shoulders above the Tara pistol. It's got a better trigger than you could ever achieve with the Tara, even with all the upgrades you could ever possibly do. I don't know what the level of support you get from EAA, who imports these, but I can't be any worse than, well, you fired live ammo through it, so now it's your problem. So definitely, that's kind of the gist of what I'm looking at as far as if you know any more information, or if you've heard different, or you have anything to add, of course, feel free to do so. I could be wrong. Like I said, I threw in some of my own speculation in here, but the thesis is what the thesis is.